John Wayne Gacy, known as the Killer Clown, was one of America's most infamous serial killers. He earned this nickname because he often performed at children's parties as a clown named Pogo. Between 1972 and 1978, he murdered at least 33 young men and boys. Gacy's life appeared normal on the surface. He was a successful businessman and involved in local politics. However, beneath this facade, he was committing horrific acts. Gacy's victims were mostly young men who he lured to his home, where he would torture and kill them. His actions eventually led to his capture and execution, but not before leaving a trail of pain and horror. Public awareness about serial killers grew significantly because of his case. Gacy's story is a chilling reminder of how appearances can be deceiving. His heinous acts serve as a cautionary tale about the potential for evil lurking behind a friendly smile. John Wayne Gacy was born on March 17, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois. He had a troubled childhood marked by a difficult relationship with his father, an alcoholic who often physically abused him. Despite the harsh conditions at home, Gacy tried to lead a normal life, showing an interest in politics from a young age. However, he struggled academically and faced health issues, including a heart condition. As he grew older, Gacy's behavior became more troubling. He had several run-ins with the law, including a conviction for assaulting a teenage boy in 1968. Despite these early signs of his dangerous nature, Gacy managed to maintain a facade of normalcy. He moved to Illinois, started a construction business, and became a respected community member. Gacy's seemingly stable life hid his dark impulses. This duality made his eventual crimes all the more shocking. Marlyn Myers was John Wayne Gacy's first wife. They met as colleagues at a Nunn-Bus Shoe Company store in Springfield, Illinois, and after 6 months of dating, tied the knot in September 1964. After their wedding, they moved to Waterloo, Iowa, where Gacy took on a job as a manager at several KFC restaurants that had been purchased by Myers' father. In Conversations with a Killer, audiences hear how he often had young men visit him there. John Wayne Gacy used various methods to lure his victims, often promising them jobs or a place to stay. Many of his victims were young men looking for work. Gacy used his position as a successful businessman to gain their trust. Once at his home, Gacy would overpower them using handcuffs or other restraints. His preferred method of murder was asphyxiation, typically using a rope. Many victims were buried in the crawl space beneath his house. His meticulous concealment helped him evade detection for years. Gacy's methods were both cruel and calculated. The discovery of John Wayne Gacy's crimes began with the disappearance of a teenager named Robert Piest in December 1978. Piest was last seen leaving his job to meet Gacy about a potential job opportunity. When Piest did not return home, his family reported him missing, prompting an investigation. The police quickly identified Gacy as a suspect. A search of his house revealed suspicious items, including a class ring and driver's licenses belonging to other missing young men. These discoveries led to further searches, which eventually uncovered the horrifying truth. The remains of 29 victims were found buried on Gacy's property, with additional bodies discovered in nearby rivers. Gacy was arrested on December 21, 1978. Under intense interrogation, he eventually confessed to the murders. His detailed confession provided a gruesome account of his crimes, shocking both the investigators and the public. One of the first things Gacy told investigators after his arrest was that he had not acted alone in several of the murders. He asked whether my associates had been arrested. When questioned whether these associates had participated directly or indirectly in the killings, Gacy replied, "Directly." He later claimed Cram and Rossi were involved in several of the murders. Some defense attorneys and investigators researching the possibility Gacy had not acted alone in several of the murders have said there is overwhelming evidence Gacy worked with an accomplice. In the 1980s, Gacy informed FBI profiler Robert Ressler that 2 or 3 PDM employees had assisted in several murders. John Wayne Gacy's trial began on February 6, 1980, attracting immense media attention. Gacy's defense argued that he was insane and could not be held responsible for his actions. However, the prosecution provided overwhelming evidence of his guilt, including his detailed confessions and the physical evidence found at his home. The jury took less than 2 hours to convict Gacy on all counts of murder. On March 13, 1980, he was sentenced to death. Gacy spent 14 years on death row, during which he continued to make headlines. He gave several interviews showing no remorse for his actions. Gacy even took up painting, creating a series of disturbing artworks. On May 10, 1994, John Wayne Gacy was executed by lethal injection. His execution brought an end to one of the darkest chapters in American criminal history. For many, it was a moment of closure, though the memories of his horrific crimes continued to haunt the nation. The case of John Wayne Gacy had a profound impact on society. It highlighted the dangers of trusting appearances, showing that even those who seem friendly can harbor dark secrets. Gacy's crimes brought attention to the vulnerabilities of marginalized groups. One key lesson is the importance of vigilance and community awareness. His ability to evade detection underscores the need for thorough investigations. The case led to changes in law enforcement practices. Police became more attentive to patterns of disappearances. This shift has helped in the early detection and prevention of similar cases. Gacy's story is a chilling reminder of the evil behind a facade of normalcy. The lessons learned continue to resonate, reminding us of the importance of vigilance, community, and justice.
And then there's the Gacy confession about how he killed his victims. Strangled them with his now infamous rope trick that police say he demonstrated to them with a rosary bead. He says he was simply discussing knots in general. Catch his sense of humor.
Shoelaces, huh? You're in trouble now.
Yeah, right.
Aren't you afraid sitting that close to me? What the hell? Oh, this is too long. You don't need it this long. Okay. I had a rosary, which I carried in my pocket. I've always carried a rosary. It was my communion rosary. They said, well, what kind of a knot do you use? I said, what do you mean knot? When I tie things up? I says, depending on what I'm using it for, I said, the only thing I ever learned was from Boy Scouts is a tourniquet knot. He said, well, show us what that is. So I took, at that time, and again, it's together, but in order to demonstrate it here, I took the rosary and I said, well, here, you put it around. This is hard trying to do this. Why don't you put your hand out? Okay, here. What I told him, I said, here, all you do is you wrap it around, you put one knot in it. And I said, then you put a second knot in it. Okay? Mm-hmm. I said, then you take a stick and stick it in here, and you just turn this. And I says, it causes a tourniquet. I said, that's the only knot I ever learned.
Precisely the kind of knot found on the ropes wrapped around the necks of the victims found under the house on Summerdale.
My question would be to you right off the bat is why, after so many years of silence, never having a media interview, and people have said that you have given them interviews in years
Well, that's
past.
hogwash.
Yeah.
That's strictly hogwash.
So we're saying
I'm
today,
constantly told that I'm misquoted constantly, saying that I said this and I said that, and it's not happened.
so it's pretty well established on this. This is the first time you're speaking publicly about your case.
Right.
Yeah.
I've always felt that my attorneys were handling it, and they said to keep a low profile and stay away from it. And in light of all that has been used against me in the media, they've created this fantasy monster image, and it's been going on for the last 12 years. And I've ever had no comment, and I had no need to talk to the media for the simple reason that they were looking for sensationalism and they were looking for the monster.
When you say fantasy monster image, what are you referring to by that?
Well, the idea that I'm a homosexual thrill killer and all that garbage, and they painted this image of me that like I strolled down the streets and stalked young boys and slaughtered them. Hell, if you could see my schedule, my work schedule, you know damn well that I was never out there.
Well, you were indicted, convicted, and sentenced on 33 counts of homicide. Is that correct?
That's correct. The clowning was relaxation for me. I enjoyed entertaining kids. Like some people are, they unwind in different ways, either by going out drinking or that. I could put on clown makeup and I was relaxed. And I enjoyed doing it. It was only twice a month that I did it.
Yeah, this was not used then for a lure to draw kids to you
No, we would visit different hospitals and entertain the children there. And we didn't entertain them with handcuffs or anything like that. All we used was balloon animals and small toys and stuff like that. But we also did parades. And in the summertime, like on 4th of July, I used to be in 4 parades in one day. I've always told people when I got into clown makeup, I regressed into childhood. It was fun being a clown because you could be yourself or just let yourself go and act a fool. You could be slapstick and funny and have a good time. That's why I always enjoyed clowning. Clowning has taken a bad name because of what they've used in my case.
Well, how many bodies were actually located on the property and where?
To my understanding, there was a total of 29 bodies or 28 bodies were found on the property. 27 of them under the house.
And the rest?
One was under the driveway, one was under the garage. So that makes a total of 29.
Okay. Now, from the standpoint of the arrest, when you were arrested in this matter,
It snowballed.
It snowballed. Okay. What was the date of that arrest? Do you recall?
December 22nd, 1978 is when I was arrested. The rope trick is not the way I've described the rope trick is it's nothing more than a tourniquet. And I had explained it to them. I even demonstrated it to them. We cut off the air. So if you're going to kill somebody, you just put it on their neck and twist it 3 times or 4 times or whatever till the person stopped moving.
And you took him where?
Out on the I-55 bridge.
And that's where. How was he then taken from the car and placed into the river?
Just opened up the trunk and dumped him in.
Okay.
There was no big special deal on it. I couldn't get down in the crawl space that easy, and then I had to bum back to begin with. You got to crawl on your belly to move around in the crawl space. There is no way that I could have done any of the digging down there. I had enough trouble just getting down there. I'm not the monster image that's been portrayed of me, and the only way you can make a monster image is to make it look like I stalked the streets and picked up altar boys off the street. You know, they want to make them look like innocent babes in the woods, and I was swatting them like flies. My encounters were always by happen chance. If you pull up at a stoplight and there's somebody standing there waiting for a bus, if you give them a ride, and if you ask them whether, you know, do you get in anything or you want drugs or something like that, that's how it happened. Always happen chance encounter. Tim McCoy's name wasn't put on him until 1988. Prior to that, he was known as Unknown Number 9, and he was buried by me in the crawl space. That's the only knowledge that I have of it.
What was the circumstances of that?
He was killed in the house in self-defense.
And who killed him then?
I stabbed him.
Yeah, and it was an issue of self-defense. Why was he in the process of assaulting you, or what?
He was coming at me with a knife. I just took the knife away and twisted it in his hand, and that's what killed him.
So at that point, you yourself did bury him then in the crawl space.
Right, and if you notice, he's under concrete.
Did you bury any of the others in the crawl space?
No, I had nothing. I had no knowledge of them.
Yeah. Well, why is it that your first one is there, and then 20-some others are buried down there as well? Did somebody know that you had done this with the first one, that giving them an idea?
More than likely, when drinking and getting high with the others, yeah.
Admitting it to them. So you feel others then followed your suit in using this as a burial ground?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
I worked for Powell Mortuary, being the night man picking up bodies at the hospitals and stuff for them. I worked as a night man only. I did have nothing to do with the bodies. All this talk that I slept with the dead ones or had sex with dead bodies, there is no truth to any of that.
You did live in the mortuary.
I lived in the mortuary, yes, but not in the embalming room. I mean, they make it sound like, I slept in the crypts with them. And I never climbed into a coffin or anything like that. That is so damn ridiculous. It's the same thing. The contention is that I slept all night with Robert Peace. If you want to say I slept in the same house with a dead body, okay, fine, I'll buy that. But in the same room, no. And besides, the dead won't bother you. It's the living you got to worry about.
Suburbs near Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Gacy was active in local politics and once had his photo taken with then First Lady Rosalynn Carter.
This guy didn't have horns on him. He didn't walk around with a sign that he's a mass murderer. And he was extremely well liked, very popular.
Gacy always liked the limelight. Dressed as Pogo the Clown, he liked to entertain children, and he loved to throw lavish parties. Then on December 11th, 1978, a local boy, Rob Peace, disappeared. He told his mother he was meeting with John Gacy about a job. A search of Gacy's home turned up a number of items from other missing kids, like class rings and other jewelry, but police couldn't find any sign of foul play.
You know, we had maybe a slight idea, but no real concrete evidence that there was a homicide here.
For Rosemary and Richard Zick, the search of Gacy's home brought disturbing news. Some of the jewelry police recovered belonged to their son, John. He'd been missing for almost 2 years by then.
He was my third son. He was 19 when he disappeared. He had been out of high school for about 1.5 years.
Police didn't have enough to charge Gacy with anything, so they decided to follow him. After 2 weeks of constant surveillance, Gacy cracked. With his lawyer present, Gacy told a room full of shocked policemen that he'd killed dozens of young men and buried most of them under his house.
He drew a detailed map of his crawl space, showing where the bodies were so best as he could recall.
Using the map that Gacy made, police began the brutal job of excavating the crawl space under Gacy's home. And one by one, the body bags made their morbid parade to the coroner's truck. This man, who we will identify only as Robert, was one of the lucky few who got away. Only months before Gacy's arrest, he ran into Gacy in a bar. Gacy brought him back to his house, where Gacy asked him to try a new drug.
Gave me that, and I tried it, and well, it was chloroform, but it knocked me out.
And then what happened?
Well, I woke up in bed with him.
For some reason, Gacy didn't kill Robert. He just let him go. But it wasn't until after Gacy's arrest for murder that Robert realized just how lucky he was. Now he's happy to see Gacy get his.
At his trial, Gacy admitted to killing one young man in self-defense, but claimed someone else put the other bodies under his house. He was convicted of all 33 murders. Yesterday, he chose Inside Edition to make his final public comments. I spoke with him on the phone.
Are you frightened right now? Time is growing very short.
No, I'm in a good mood. Why?
So you're not frightened of losing your life?
Bill, do you think about death every day?
No,
I don't.
But if my death were scheduled to be tomorrow, I might.
Well, I'm not.
So you're not frightened at all?
You accept the things you cannot change.
Do you feel any sense of remorse about anything that's happened here?
Well, considering I've never had a fair trial, how am I supposed to feel?
So you're telling me from the heart that you feel no remorse or guilt here at all?
Well, if somebody would have taken the time to look at the facts, you'll find out that they're not what they were said to be. There's more fantasy on me than there is fact.
Even at this late date, you still say that you are innocent?
I will go to my death that way. Until you remove politics from the court system, all we're going to go ahead with is a state-executed murder.
So you feel you're going to be murdered?
That's correct.
Is there any possibility that you would change your mind before the execution and say, yeah, I really did something? Is there any possibility that that would happen?
No, if you're looking for a Ted Bundy, go talk to Ted Bundy. They've asked me to give them a final statement, and I haven't issued one yet. All I've told the DOC is to arrange for 10 minutes, in which at time I will decide whether I'm going to talk or not.
I strongly suspect you will have something to say. What could that be?
I have no idea at this time. I haven't even thought about it.
Do you think you'll be very emotional at that moment?
In regards to what? I just feel that I feel sorry for the victims' families because they have not gotten justice in this case. I think they have a right to know. Some of them have got the remains of bodies that don't even belong to them.
Is there any way you can explain at this late hour how 27 bodies were found underneath your house?
I've already told you there's 12 keys to the house. We've linked 16 of the bodies to one individual. We've linked 14 more to another individual. All these people had keys to the house.
If you did it and you do not repent, I'm sure the confessor will tell you, God have mercy on your soul.
I am at peace with God.
Once again, Gacy is set to receive a lethal injection at 1 minute after midnight.